Well, good day world. I am the Mystic Philosopher and you are tuned into the right number. Today I will share with you another presentation from my very thought-provoking series of presentations called Another Perspective, the Mystic Philosopher. And the title of today's presentation, our topic of today's presentation, is the Mystic Philosopher's perspective on the cyclic journey called life. First, what do I mean by perspective? Some of you may ask, or some of you might be asking. Well, by perspective, I mean my personal point of view, my angle of observation, and the way things are revealed to me. By perspective, I mean the way that I physically see, the way that I think that I know, not that I know, but the way that I think that I know, and this you will learn more about in a minute. So the way that I think that I know, feel, and understand things from where I am presently looking at them or viewing them, and thus creating my own reality. By perspective, I also mean the way that I perceive things both physically, mentally, dimensionally, and spiritually. Now, in sharing some of my perspectives with you in this two-part video presentation, or this two-part video, and via this medium, I do hope that you all will be both tolerant enough, patient enough, and enlightened enough to be able to distinguish or to separate who I am or what I am and who you are or what you are from my perspectives. It's nothing personal, just my perspective. And that you will be able to appreciate, I do hope that you will be able to appreciate the fact, or at least appreciate the possibility that though we might be looking at the same thing, sensing the same thing, and talking about the same thing, however, as individuals, we will or we might have our own personal interpretations, our own personal revelations and insights about the same thing, and thus our individual perspective or perspectives. Now, if that is true, or if I am correct, then we may logically deduce that right and wrong, or if you prefer, that which we may call or perceive as being right or wrong, good or bad, etc., is just a matter of our individual perspective or perspectives. It may be just a matter of our individual angle of observation, or where we might be looking at the thing, or from where we might be looking at the thing. And if you happen to disagree with me on this point, it's okay. It's just your perspective, your angle of observation. So just let us agree to disagree on this point, and we'll talk more on that at another time. From my perspective, life, or the subject of life, meaning living, existing, being, awareness or consciousness, etc. Life as we in our human condition think we know it is very fascinating. Life is very awe-inspiring. It is very involved, meaning it involves and consists of every and anything that we can think of. It's my perspective. It's quite mysterious, to say the least. For example, according to the book one of the book of the Christian Bible called Ecclesiastes, the philosopher and wise man named Solomon is alleged to have called and described life as vanity, meaning life, is emptiness. It's worthless, senseless, it's meaningless, it's futile, vaporous. For example, you are here and then suddenly you disappear, or suddenly you vanished without leaving anything or any trace behind. Even your very memory, if not suddenly disappear, over time it too disappears with you, etc. Nobody think or give a rat's ass, as they would say, about you after you disappear. Unless, I might add, unless they might be able to profit monetarily or otherwise from your memory. Other than that, as the wise man Solomon in thousands of years ago wrote, that's it. In addition to all that, I, the Mystic Philosopher, describe life as being wonderful. In addition to all that is mentioned here in the book of Ecclesiastes, and I recommend anyone read it and get your perspectives. I'll give your perspectives on it, your interpretation of it. But in addition to what the wise man, or the man who is alleged to have been the wisest man, at least in his time, wrote or said, I, the Mystic Philosopher, describe the thing we call life as being wonderful. Meaning, wonderful, it is full of wonders. It is full or filled with wanderers and wandering possibilities. In fact, from my perspective, the thing we call life may also be called wonder and wonderful. And we, the product of wonder, may be called wanderers. Wanderers. And it does not matter whether wanderers is spelled with, from my perspective, in this case, it doesn't matter whether it's spelled with an A, as in W-O-N-D-E-R, or W-A-N-D-E-R. We are all wanderers in both ways, and you'll see in a minute. And why do I say that we are wanderers? Some of you may be asking. Well, it's because we are always wandering. For a moment, just think about the many places that you may have wandered to and from here. And for your information, it does not matter, as I've said before, if the word is spelled with an A or an O, wander, with the vowel A or O. We are all wanderers. We are always wondering. For example, we are wondering if we are right. We are always wondering if we are wrong. We wonder if we are good, or we wonder if we are bad. We wonder what has happened or what may have happened in what we call the past. And we are wondering what is happening right now. in what we called or what we perceive or may perceive as being the present, the moment. And we are also wondering what is going to happen next, or happen in what we called, what may happen in what we call the future. We wonder what others are thinking, or what others might be thinking and saying about us. Our mind, or the thing that we call our mind, is always wandering all over the place, if you will. Our mind is always wandering all over the place, to the point that some of us may admit that we can't consciously focus or concentrate on more than one thing at a time. We are always easily distracted because our mind, we are wandering. And sometimes we can only consciously focus on something for only a very short period of time. Some people that are diagnosed to be severely affected are classified as suffering from what is called ADD, or attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. These are all medical terminologies from their diagnosis, all having to do with wandering of the mind. In fact, some of you that may be watching me right now or listening to this video may be wondering who I am and what the hell I am talking about, and saying that we are all wanderers. And above all, some of us think that we are temporarily or permanently stuck on this planet that is called Earth. This, or a planet that is itself a wanderer. A planet that is wandering aimlessly around a star that we call the sun. In the middle, wandering in the middle of the thing, or wandering around aimlessly in the middle of the thing that we call space. And just for your information, the very word planet in its origin means wandering or a wanderer. So let me now quickly point out a few of what I also called life's wandering possibilities. Let me quickly point out a few for you. The first of life's wandering possibilities that I would like to admit to, and one that I would be remiss if I did not mention it here, is the fact that it is possible that the people that classify themselves as the scientific community, its learned and distinguished scientists and their adherents, may be right in saying that this is it. They may be right in saying that we only have one life to live and one chance at it, and that whenever or wherever it expires, that's when and where it's over. We are then and will be forever no more. It is possible that they are right from their perspective, meaning from their angle of observation. But again, let me remind you that because life is all about possibilities, then it is also possible that they are wrong. For as I have said earlier, that I, the Mystic Philosopher, describe life as being wonderful, meaning it is full of wonders, wanderers, and wandering possibilities. So why should I become a slave to someone else's possibility and not explore mine or other people's possibilities? So with that in mind, and from my perspective, life or our awareness of living on this, the physical and material plane, in this density, also called the third dimension, may be described as a journey and a cycle, or the phrase I coin, a cyclic journey. And possibly it is a cyclic journey that has no final destination. A cyclic journey that has no end. By this I mean, from my perspective, it is possible that at the end of each cyclic journey, which is also called death and expiration in this dimension, is also the beginning of another cyclic journey in another dimension. Or if you prefer, in another plane, another density, or another state of existence. Remember, it's possible. It is also possible that it may be the beginning of another cyclic journey in this same, what we call third dimension, in this awareness. It is also possible that it is the beginning of another cyclic journey in this or another dimension where we carry on or carry forward or carry over consciously living our lives or our life experiences the way we are, or the same way that we were living here. It's possible. According to one of the 7 Hermetic principles that is found in the Kabbalion, namely the principle of correspondence, and I quote, as above, so below, as below, so above, unquote. Now, if that is true, and if that is the way it is, then some of us, if not most of us, might be in for some very big and possibly some very rude awakening and very uncomfortable surprise or surprises at the end of this, our cyclic journey. For just when we think it's all over, it has only just begun or just only begun to continue. And for those of us, or for those of you that may have heard one of my songs called Death is No Escape, and by the way, you can listen to it right here on YouTube. The name of this song is Death is No Escape, in which I said, and I quote, "Death is no escape from all the crimes that you are committing. Your wrongs just won't disappear when your body falls asleep. There's a universal account where Akashic records are submitted. Like a convict in a court of law, your own docket you do keep. For you will reap what you sow. These are words of wisdom you must know. For as above, so below. And so shall it be wherever you go." Unquote. And the final possibility that I will mention at this time is that it is also possible that at the end of our cyclic journey here, also called expiration and death, that we start all over again in another dimension with brand new experiences, and possibly with no memory or trace of the past. And for some of us, that would be good. Therefore, if that is true, we may reasonably agree that in each dimension, which I also described in other writings and in other presentations as a dimension as a bandwidth, in each dimension or bandwidth, Life has a beginning and it also has what I call a temporary end. And the period in between our start and expiry date is what we call living, or where we have or is having our life experiences. So we have a beginning and a start and an expiry date. So we are just experiencing and living between within that dimension, between that bandwidth, or between that time right now. From my perspective, the answers that we seek for some, if not for all, of the fascinating and intriguing questions about life and about our awareness or consciousness of living on this plane will forever remain a mystery. And a mystery is all that it is and all that it will be. Just that. It's a mystery. And from my perspective, a mystery cannot be known. A mystery is unknowable, period. And one of the many reasons that I can think of why some of us are trying to solve or trying to know a mystery is because we just don't know, and possibly cannot know that it is a mystery. From my perspective, if the thing that is commonly referred to by many of us humans as God, or that is commonly, the thing that is commonly called God, if it is the source of all sources, the very essence of life, then wanting to know, claiming to know, or thinking that we can or that we will ever know its mind, meaning God's mind, God's mystery, or its mystery, is not, from my perspective, it is not sound thinking or sound, it is not sound and rational reasoning. Unless we are wanting to know, we are claiming to know, or thinking we can or that we will ever know that we are God, or that we are the thing called God, which is the source of all sources, the very essence of life, and all that is. And even then, how could we be God and not already know? Please go figure that out. From my perspective, regardless of who or what we may think we are, regardless of what academic credentials, titles, and status we may have earned in the system, or what accolades that are bestowed on us by religions, society, and our peers, the fact is that we cannot really know anything, let alone know the mystery of the thing we call life. I'm hereby reminded of a quote from one of the world's most famous theoretical physicists and cosmologist, Professor Stephen Hawkins, and what I, the Mystic Philosopher, think is not only an eternal quest, but a humanly futile search. The question of why is it that we and the universe exist? He said, and I quote, "If we find the answer to that, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason, for then we should know the mind of God." Unquote. from my perspective, and by giving much careful thought to his response, I will agree that it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason. I agree, and I quote, it would be the ultimate triumph of human reason, meaning human to human reason and human to human reasoning, but definitely not the ultimate triumph of human to God, or that which we call God reason, or human over God, or human over that which we call God reasoning, because the two are not equal, nor can or could they be. Quote, for then, I'm quoting the professor now, Professor Stephen Hawkins, for then we should know the mind of God, unquote, or may I add, the thing called God, unquote. Two very interesting words that the professor, very wise intellectual, used right here in his response are the words if, and note if and not when, and the word should and not the word would. From my perspective, both words are expressing, both words that he used, if and should, are expressing uncertainty, which would imply, from my perspective, that he himself is not definite or sure. He is not certain that such a thing, knowing the mind of God, or that which we call God, is humanly possible. And for your information, English is not my language. English is his language. And if he so meticulously and carefully used those two words, I personally think, as a wise man who is, it's not by accident. However, if I am wrong, and if that is, or if that was his quest, his search to know and ultimately understand the mind of the thing so many of us call God, then not only is this scientist and professor programmed to be overly ambitious, if not very presumptuous, but his quest may also be described as the impossible dream of reaching the unreachable star. Both he, along with all of those who believe that they can know the mind of the thing called God, are chasing the wind. Just think about this quest, this search for a moment, and then ask yourself this question. If they were to know the mind of the thing called God, what would we become? If we were to know, let me repeat that, if we were to know the mind of the thing called God, what would we then become? And what would this thing called God itself then become? In other words, what would happen to God, or the thing called God? Now, some of you may ask the question, how can I be talking about impossible dream and implying that it is impossible to become this thing called God? When I started out earlier, or when I stated earlier that the world and life is filled with possibilities, and life as being full of wonders, wanderers, and wandering possibilities. Please note that from my perspective here, possibilities also include impossibilities. And therefore, it is also possible that it is impossible. Let me give another example. I'll give you another example. Recently, someone that I know to be a person that is very impressed and can be easily influenced by people with worldly, not people like me, but people with worldly influence. They can be easily impressed by people with worldly fame, success, power, money. In fact, the person is impressed by people with fame, success, money, and material possessions, etc. Forward me a YouTube video for me to watch, along with an attached comment that read, and I quote, "Great video done by 28-year-old multimillionaire, name I will not mention here," unquote. And the title of the video is, and I quote, "How to Reframe Your Mind for Infinite Possibility," unquote. This to I, the Mystic Philosopher, was and is not only illogical and nonsensical, but it is also an impossible dream, or like what is called the impossible dream of reaching the unreachable star. And one of the questions that I asked both the individual and her 28-year-old guru and success coach, and I am still waiting for a response from either of them or both of them or anyone who may wish to, is simply this. And I quote, if the question I ask, if our human mind is finite, and if infinite mind is an attribute, that belongs only to what some of us call God, or the thing that some of us call God, how can a finite human mind know infinite possibility? Or how can a finite mind